Okay, so have you ever thought about, like, taking your dog hiking in the winter?
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like so much fun, right?
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
you and your dog out in the snowy wonderland.
For sure.
So I actually got my hands on this guide all about winter dog hiking.
Oh,
Or I was
cool.
looking through it, and there's some really cool stuff in here, I gotta say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some of it was not really what I was expecting. So we're
Interesting.
gonna we're gonna deep dive into all that today and like extract all the need to know information so that when you and your pup hit the trails,
Yes.
it's gonna be a fun and safe adventure for both of you guys.
That sounds like a really good plan.
So first things first,
Yeah.
choosing the right trail.
Okay.
This is like the first thing they talk about in the guide.
Makes sense.
And of course, you know, you want to make sure it's a dog-friendly trail.
Yeah, right.
That's obvious, but
Yeah.
you really do have to check those local regulations and make sure the dogs are actually allowed on the trail
Oh, that's a
because
good point.
yeah, some of them have seasonal restrictions for dogs specifically.
Yeah, you know what? I never even thought about that.
Me neither.
But that makes a lot of sense, especially, with winter conditions. Some trails might be more dangerous for dogs than they are in other seasons.
Totally.
So,
And yeah, like think about the actual trail conditions themselves too.
right.
Like if it's super steep or icy,
Yeah.
that could be like, a real recipe for disaster.
Definitely an accident waiting to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was actually reading
Yeah.
that almost 20% of winter dog injuries that are treated by vets are paw related.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So paw protection
Yes.
is super important. And it's
Yes.
not just the snow and ice that we have to think about,
Right.
which are like the obvious ones.
Of course.
But the guide mentions salt as
Mm.
like a major
Oh.
culprit for paw problems.
Huh. I hadn't thought about that.
Me neither.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah.
Because, they use a lot of salt on the sidewalks and roads in the winter. And
Right.
yeah, if you're walking your dog in those areas, it can really irritate their paws.
Absolutely.
So, booties or some sort of paw protection is a really good idea.
And I always struggle with, how much to layer my dog
Uh-huh.
for these winter hikes
Yeah.
because like some dogs just run so hot.
Right. They have that natural fur coat already.
Right. Exactly.
And then others get cold really easily. So it's like, how do you know?
Well, the guide says to think of it like layering for ourselves.
Okay.
Which I think is a good analogy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like, you wouldn't go out in a t-shirt if it was
Right.
freezing cold.
No way.
So you got to give your dog that same kind of consideration.
For sure.
And, it really depends on the breed too.
Yeah.
And like the thickness of their coat.
Yeah.
Like a husky out in a blizzard probably doesn't need any extra layers.
They've got their own built-in parka.
Exactly. But a tiny chihuahua,
Yeah.
you're definitely going to need to bundle them up.
You got to get that little sweater on them.
For sure. And,
Yeah.
while we're talking about keeping our pup safe,
Yeah.
the guide really stresses the importance of using reflective gear,
Ah, good point.
especially with those short winter days.
Yeah, the sun sets so early.
Right. It gets dark so quickly.
So visibility is super important for both you and your dog, especially if you're out there near dawn or dusk.
Absolutely. And, it's one of those things that's easy to overlook.
Yeah, you're so focused on getting all the warm clothes on.
Exactly.
You forget about being seen.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah.
We found the perfect trail.
Okay.
We've got all the right gear.
Check.
Now it's time to pack the backpack
Okay, let's pack.
with all of our essentials.
What are we taking?
Okay, first and foremost,
Mm-hmm.
water.
Of course.
I used to think that dogs could just eat snow
Oh,
for hydration,
I've
but
heard that too.
the
Yeah.
guide says that's a total myth.
Really?
Yeah, so pack plenty of water.
Good to know.
All right, so now for the fun part.
Yes.
Treats. I love packing treats for my dog.
Treats are the best.
They're like a secret weapon,
Yes.
especially on a winter hike.
Especially if your dog starts getting tired or, the trail gets a little bit challenging. A treat can be a really good motivator.
Totally.
I've heard, though, I don't know if you've heard this,
Yeah.
that giving a treat during the hike can mess up their rhythm.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. It probably depends on the dog.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Like some dogs are just so focused on the treats.
Yeah.
That's all they can think about.
Exactly.
But then some dogs,
Yeah.
it's just like a little
It's
boost.
just a little reward.
Yeah, a little encouragement.
Yeah,
So yeah, know your dog.
you got it.
And
Yeah.
if they're like a treat fiend, treat monster, yeah, maybe save it for the end of the hike.
Say for the end, a nice little reward.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, what else is in the backpack?
Of course, the leash
Yes.
and waist bags,
Okay,
leave no
balance.
trace,
Leave no trace, that's right.
even in a winter wonderland.
Exactly. Pack it in, pack it out.
All right, so we're out on the trail.
Yeah.
And this is where the guide gets really interesting.
Oh, okay. Tell me more.
They talk about, like, becoming a dog body language expert
Ooh, interesting.
when you're on these winter hikes.
Yeah, because, we really need to be able to recognize
Yeah.
when our dogs are uncomfortable.
Right.
And it's
Yeah.
not always as obvious as you might think.
Yeah, like shivering is like a pretty clear sign.
Yeah, that's a big one.
But they talk about some more subtle signs.
Yeah, okay. Like what?
Like if your dog's lifting their paws a lot,
Oh, yeah.
or they're reluctant to keep walking,
Mm-hmm.
or their tail is tucked.
Okay.
Those are all signs that something's up.
Right. They're not having a good time.
So if my dog starts digging a snow burrow,
Yeah.
is that my cue to call it a day?
Probably a good idea.
Yeah, I thought so.
Seriously, though.
Yeah.
It's all about, like, taking breaks.
Yeah.
Maybe offering some warm snuggles if you brought a blanket with you.
Yeah.
And even being willing to shorten the hike.
Absolutely.
If it's just too much for your dog that day.
And you know what? Sometimes I get so caught up in just like enjoying the scenery
Mm-hmm.
and, taking in the beauty of the winter landscape that I totally forget to check in with my dog.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
So it's a good reminder
It
to
is.
slow down
Yeah.
and like really listen to what they're trying to tell us.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance, between like exploring and having fun and making sure our furry friends are comfortable.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So we're back home.
Okay.
Fire's going.
Nice.
Hot cocoa is brewing,
Perfect.
but we're
Yeah.
not quite done yet.
Okay. What else do we need to do?
Post-hike care.
Post-hike care. Yeah.
This is super important, and the guide emphasizes drying your dog thoroughly.
Okay. That makes sense.
Not only to prevent chills,
Yeah.
but it's also a really good opportunity to check for any hidden injuries,
Oh, good pun.
especially cracked paw pads.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially if you walked on any surfaces that had salt on them.
Right.
That can really dry out their paws.
And a good paw balm
Yeah.
can work wonders.
Put that on. It'll help soothe their paws.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From, finding the right trail to packing the right gear
Yeah.
to recognizing those subtle signs of discomfort in our dogs.
That's a lot to think about.
I learned so much from this guide,
Me too.
especially about paying attention to your dog's individual needs.
Yeah, I think that's like the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah.
Not every dog is built for a snow day marathon.
Right.
Some dogs might thrive on like a short little snowy romp, while others might just prefer to cuddle up by the fire.
Right. And that's totally fine.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer.
And that's the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
Just getting out there,
Yeah.
experiencing winter together, but on our dog's terms.
I love that. That's a great way to put it.
So happy hiking, everyone. And if you're looking for some awesome dog-friendly trails, check out the All Trails app.
Oh, yeah. All Trails is great.
They even let you filter for trails that allow dogs.
Awesome. That's so helpful.
Yeah. So go explore with your pup.
Have fun out there.
Stay safe. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.